Today on the podcast, we are sharing in the journey of one incredible woman's path to her baby. Through years of treatments, recurrent loss, unsuccessful IVF cycles, she went through it all. And the hardest part was she never had a diagnosis. No one could ever figure out why. This is a story that blends the medical world with the spiritual one, and it is definitely a story you'll want to hear. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends both science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Here each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so you can stop stressing that you'll never have a baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me today. This conversation that I have coming up for you is a really special one. And I think it's so important to share these stories because I know how I felt through years of infertility myself, but that sense of loneliness and that idea that you are the only one in the world going through this is so strong sometimes. And yet we don't realize how common it is until we start talking about it. So I think that sharing some of these journeys is a wonderful way just to give your own sense of peace of mind when you are struggling. And I really hope that this will inspire you. So when I met Jennifer, she was going through IVF and she had been through so much already. You know, she'd been through recurrent losses, years of different treatments and different ways of trying to fall pregnant. And no one could ever give her a diagnosis. And to this day, she still doesn't know why she had so much trouble. And she got to the point where she just realized that she needed to do something differently. She had literally tried everything. Nothing was working, and she had no idea why. And I think that beautiful blend of stepping into the spiritual world, the kind of woo-woo path of letting go and surrendering into this journey is something that's really hard to do. But when you can, it opens up so many doors. And she shares exactly how she got there as well. Now, before we get into the episode, quick reminder, as this episode goes live, we have 5 days until I am running for the first time in 2025, my free 3-day live fertility yoga series. So join me on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of January this year to discover some of the practices that Jennifer talks about in this episode for yourself. So we'll learn how to use these beautiful tools of yoga, meditation, and breath work to really start tapping into your body, getting into trusting your intuition, trusting that you are on the right path. We'll talk about how to work alongside your cycle, lots of tools for helping you to regulate your nervous system. And at the end of this 3-day live series, which I know you're going to get so much value from just on its own, you'll have so many practical things that you can take home and start practicing in your own time. But if you want to continue working with these practices and with me, then you will have the chance to jump into the In Your Element Fertility Yoga program, which opens on Friday, the 31st of January. And this is the most comprehensive mind-body fertility program available. Yes, we delve really deep into yoga and meditation and breathwork practices, but it goes a lot further than that. It's a program that offers you a chance to connect with fertility doctors, naturopaths, fertility nurses. You have ongoing access to all of these experts, so you can ask all of your questions to them directly. We have a fertility nurse on staff, so she's there to do one-to-one consultations with you. I write fully comprehensive programs for your cycle, so if you're not sure how to fit in other types of exercise or anything else that you're doing in your life, I help you work that around your goals and whether you're going through fertility treatment. So it is my favorite program to run. I don't open it up very often because I like to keep that group size contained so I can give the most amount of attention and support to as many people as I can, but in a really personal way. So Doors will be open just for a limited time until places are full. So if you are interested in any of that or learning any more, then head to elementpilatesyoga.com/waitlist, pop your name down, and I'll email you all the details, and reach out if you have any questions. So let's get into this amazing conversation. Here is Jennifer. Jen, I'm so excited to be sitting down with you today. What a journey you have been on. And we're going to get into all of that and learn so much about you and what's brought us here today together. But big welcome. Can we start by learning a little bit about you? How did you end up coming to my world? And yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what brings you here.
Thank you for the invitation, Jen. Yeah, I ended up in your world with, our struggle with TTC. And I will come to the yoga part, but we started trying to conceive when my husband and I were 33. So we weren't that old, we thought. And fertility was never, or infertility, how you see it, but it was never an issue in our family. And so it didn't really cross my mind it would be. And we started, and in the end, we had a 4-year journey. It was quite a long time, and it started kind of casual, like starting. And we started at a point where we both had a great workload in our jobs. And maybe in hindsight, that wasn't, the greatest time to start trying to conceive. But then we moved on with all of that. And, left and right, everyone felt pregnant. And yeah, when nearly, the 12th month, they say, we're kind of over, I realized, okay, we might have a problem. And we went to the gynecologist, and everything looked great, but we got further into it. And I have to say, up to this date, and to this day, no one could ever tell us what the problem is. On paper, we look super fertile, but as you know, if it's not working in the real world, it's not really great. So I don't know. We don't know what happened. And also, like, the results at the gynecologist were great, but we tried, although ovulation was never an issue, we tried letrozole and things like that. And another year went by and nothing happened. So we then went to a fertility clinic. They checked us again, and they didn't say, like, you're an easy case. They never do, and it wouldn't be professional or to say that. But they gave us a positive outlook on our story. So we started with IUIs, and the second one, I felt pregnant, although the test wasn't positive in the first place. But my period didn't come, so I realized something is going on, and I had kind of a strange feeling right away, and because I felt something is not right. And then it was an ectopic pregnancy in my right tube. And although from there on our journey would go 2 more years, I think this was my lowest point. That was really that was a hard one to swallow, because for babies in the tubes, there is no chance to survive. It was the first time I felt pregnant. I knew, maybe I was before, but that's the first time, the first baby I knew we had. And that was so hard to know it's kind of going to die because it's in the wrong place. They were able to save my tube, the fallopian tube, of course, because I miscarried already, kind of naturally, but beta HCG levels went back up again. And as they didn't know where it exactly was, they told me, a surgery doesn't really make sense because we're going to cut things and we have no clue where it exactly is. So they gave me a very strong medication they also use in cancer treatments, which, it kills fast growing cells like cancer cells, hair cells, and embryonic cells, yeah. And it's so strong, you have to be off TTC for at least 3 months. The recommendations are different. Some say 6 months, but our doctor said 3 months. And later, after the treatment, they gave you kind of an antidote to clear your system. And yeah, that was a hard one. And it was physically very painful and also on a mental level to process that. And before, I did everything like the type A personalities do, like the teas, the acupuncture, the diet change, all the things. And I think there with the ectopic pregnancy, it was I hit rock bottom. That was the point where I was the lowest. And from there, I tried different things with a bigger view, maybe. And so that's when I came into yoga, into mindset work, and even into some spiritual work. And from there on, I had kind of a reset, although it was still a long way to go. We had 2 more pregnancies of unknown location. I didn't even know that this exists, because the other 2 we had, they couldn't even found. It didn't look like they were in the tube. They don't know where they were, these embryos. That's really, yeah, it's a strange thing. Although they tested my tubes 3 times, they are not blocked. No one knows what happened right there. And I think another shocker was when, because we tried more IUIs and it didn't work. And then they told us to switch to IVF. So we started our first IVF cycle, and everything looked great. And I'm a good responder. And I was for the first appointment in the clinic, and they said, everything looks great. And later in the afternoon, the clinic called me, and I went out of a meeting to get the call. And they told me, you have to stop stimulation immediately. Do not do any more injections. You are pregnant. And that was, the other 2 pregnancies of unknown location were natural ones. But again, something was not right. And of course, the stimulation wasn't great as well for that pregnancy. And we lost that as well. Yes, that was also because you're in that euphoric stage for, now we're going with IVF. We tried it, and then they call you and say you're pregnant, but then you realize it's not going to work out. So yeah, but then somehow, it felt like such a long period, because we were building a house during all that stuff. And you have so much going on. And then we always, we went further, then we 2 steps back, and we lost, with IVF, we lost our 2 first embryos. They didn't stick. And then they again did a check on me. They did before. And I thought, it's probably not going to go or bring any results. But I was tested positive for endometritis. It's not the same like endometriosis, but it's endometritis. And I got some antibiotics and stuff like that. And that was the medical side. But I also changed, from the point where I had the ectopic. I did a lot of work, and I'm sure we're going more into this. And I had changed as a person, and somehow everything aligned, and our 3rd embryo stayed with us. And this is our beautiful baby boy now, which is 8 weeks old.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jen.
I think, for me, when I was on my journey, it felt good to hear stories like that. And I hope this story might be of some use for someone else, because you hear a lot for me in my, environment, I heard a lot of stories of women who fell pregnant, like, I don't know, just with the blink of an eye, right? At one point, you realize you're not that person. And then it's easy to lose hope. So I hope that this story is going to be of some service for someone.
It absolutely is. I can tell you that already. And it's such a horrible feeling, isn't it? When it dawns on you that you thought this was going to be such an easy journey, and just month after month, you realize you're getting nowhere. And this could be a lot bigger and a lot worse than you anticipated. It's such a hard feeling. And when I met you, it was just after you had your ectopic pregnancy. And it was before you had found out you were pregnant during a stim cycle, which I found just mind blowing. You know, how do these things get missed, and how does that even happen? And gosh, you went through so much to get there on this journey. But what was it about that experience where you said it was your lowest point? And I have had a really similar experience on my journey too, actually, which was like, it was kind of like this tipping point where you think things can't get much worse. Like, this is already my worst case scenario. So what was it about that experience that made you think, I need to do something differently?
You always get text messages from the clinic with the result. And with the ectopic, I got the result. We are very sorry, you are not pregnant. So it was a negative one in the first place, the test. And I thought to myself, I don't know, I can remember that very clearly. I stood in our kitchen and I thought to myself, I don't care how many times I will receive that message again. One day I will succeed. And I remembered that. And I was hurt because it was again a negative result. But somehow, I was then pregnant. And I realized maybe that determination I had that day, of course, I was pregnant before, but I realized I was so determined it might have changed something in some sense. And that, I think that was the point where I decided, okay, it is an issue and it's not going to be easy and I have to do things differently. And it motivates me to look into different things and maybe not, the things that we would wish, that the quick wins like that are just working like a pill. Or because, to be honest, I think acupuncture is great, but I used it like that as a quick fix, just to go there, give me the needles, then out of the office and hope everything is going to be fixed. But it wasn't. So then I started more to look into things that need more work. That was the point. I started with yoga, mindset work, and even that was the latest thing I incorporated into my journey, but was even spiritual work. Because at some point I realized it's not only the medicine, it's not only the sperm and the egg, because otherwise, on paper, we would have already a bunch of children. And so I opened up my mind and the whole journey changed me as a person. I think that's also a thing I maybe would have loved to know before, because it's going to change you forever, I think. But it's also in a good sense. You can make that it's in the end in a good way. It changes you if you let it.
Oh, that is such a beautiful way to reframe it. And I try and say this to my students when they're going through really difficult times, that one day, maybe you'll be able to look back at this journey and understand why it was so hard, why you had to go through this. And maybe we don't get those answers. But isn't it funny when you can look back in hindsight? Funny is not the right word. Fascinating, maybe.
I know what you mean.
And so I look back at my journey and I think, if I hadn't gone through that, the life I have now and the incredible work that I'm able to do now, I wouldn't have had access to it. It wouldn't have been on my radar. It's a blessing, but at the same time, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, and I never want to go back to those dark days. Don't get me wrong. But when you can look at your journey and say, I am a different person for the better from what I went through, that is big. That is really big. You mentioned this idea of the mindset work, and we've talked about how we're both very type A and loved approaching our fertility journey from doing all the things and getting everything done perfectly I'm sure so many people listening to this can relate to that. And just like you, I used to go to acupuncture as well. And I really loved acupuncture, but I went to it because it was the quick fix. It was like, well, I'm here, I'm doing acupuncture. Like, obviously, this is going to help get me pregnant. And when I started my fertility yoga practice, that was exactly my attitude as well. And you realize, oh, that's not how it works. It doesn't really happen at all that way. You can't just do a few poses on a yoga mat and magically that gets you pregnant. I wish that it could. Don't get me wrong. But this
not even the handstand, right?
If only. But it when you realize that, I think that is such a shift for people, such a game changer, and it completely changed the trajectory of my journey as well. When I realized that it was going to take some work on, the beliefs I had about myself, my journey, the way I looked at my body, the way I spoke to myself, when I started looking at all of these components, and I think that all of that contributes to the mindset work, that is where things started to shift. So I'm interested to know how you found this. What does the mindset work mean for you, and how did it change things for you?
I have to say it took me a long time, to find my mix of things, because I think every journey is unique. Although what was surprising to me is that the feelings and the emotions are quite mutual. And I think that's also a great gift to see I'm not the only woman who feels the way I feel. But back to the mix, I had yoga, for the physical part, but also for the mental and in a sense for the spiritual part. I have to say I'm into yoga since, I don't know, many, many years, and I love it. But as the personality I am, I always used it as a workout. And, I did the sweaty vinyasa flows and the chaturanga and all that stuff. And I still love yoga, but the teacher I normally work with, she always told me, Jen, you're a go, go, go one. You should, calm down. You should yoga to calm down, to more activate, the yin. The yin, you have enough of the yang. And yeah, so that was I think the practice with you brought me to the place where I was able to fully incorporate everything of yoga, like the slower parts. I meditated before, but even with that, I was, I did an hour because I'm, the one who I am. So I need to meditate an hour to think it worked. And what I loved about your practice is it is also very doable time-wise. It's about 10 and 15 minutes, and it allowed me to not perform in my day. It was a time where I didn't have to perform because I needed to perform at my job, and we were building that house and we were managing that project. And that was just, some time with you. And by the way, I love your voice and how you do everything, in the lessons. And so I had that to switch on my parasympathetic nervous system. I think that's very important, because I didn't have that in the rest of my day. So that was a great one. And we also did kind of mindset work in your program, and I did it also with Roseanne Austin. And yes, I even had the spiritual work with Deanne Crew. And so everything came together. For me, it was that mix, but it took me a long time together with medicine. I want to credit everything, but it was a long time to find my mix, what's working for me. And it was like you said, you have to work on your beliefs, on everything. And for me, it was also important at one point because we are looking for that quick fix. Like, it's just maybe that kind of, maybe it's the iron levels, or maybe it's, vitamin D or anything, or the tube is blocked. We're looking for that thing which isn't right. But in the end, I had to accept that it's just how it is. And up to this day, I do not have a real diagnosis or an explanation why this happened to us. So it was an important one for me to also accept that I am on this journey and there is no fast way out. And as I am on this journey, it might be the best to get the best out of it and to go back to enjoying my life and to try to get something good out of this. It was really a gift. And you said it, and Roseanne said it as well. Like, one day you will think it's a gift, and you don't. The first time you hear that, you want to slap that person in the face, and like, what are you telling me? But really, I think that's a big thing that changed in the end, and was also I changed. I had the right mix. I had the right people supporting me, like you, like Roseanne, like Deanne, like our fertility doctors. But it's also important, besides that mix of things, that you change. And what changed for me in the end was that was a point too. I could say, even if it's not going to work out, I'm grateful for the journey we had, because I met so many wonderful people I wouldn't have met otherwise. And I learned so much about me. And I came to a point where I was even proud of myself. And I'm rarely proud of myself, and also self-love. I think in your program, I also learned a lot about self-love, because you're very gentle with yourself in these practices you do daily. And that was important for me as well, because I struggled with self-love, but I came to a point where I said, hey, I had been through a lot and I'm still standing, and that's enough. And I'm still going forward. And I could see that even that was an achievement. And so I came to the point where I said, I'm grateful for the history and the journey we have, even if it's not going to work out. I believed it would work out. And I think that's also an important part, to still hold that belief. But it was great to think, it's a gift. I came to the point where I could see it's a gift, like you said. But the first time someone is telling you that, you think, are you crazy?
I know, you have to be very careful saying these things to people. And it is absolutely not what they want to hear. And I was told the same thing. And look, we are very fortunate to be able to sit here and say, I can see it all now. The thing that I think that changes for a lot of people, and you touched on this, is this ability to enjoy your life again, and just to know that you don't have to be miserable. You don't have to suffer through it. And I didn't know that that was an option, which sounds ridiculous, but I was just obsessed. It was on my mind every moment, from the time I woke up to the very last moment before I fell asleep. It was all I thought about. And when I got to that point of, look, if it doesn't happen, what is the worst case scenario? And for me, the worst case scenario was I had a beautiful husband. I had a job that I enjoyed. I had great friends. We traveled. And I thought, that's a pretty good life. But obviously, I wanted the baby. And just like you, I had this knowing, I had this feeling that was what was meant for me. And I honestly believe that every woman who feels that is because they are meant to be a mother. There's no way around that. But getting to that point, my goodness, is so, so hard. Do you think that you got there? Do you think you got to the point where you could say, I'll be okay if this doesn't happen?
No, I don't think so, because, Roseanne taught us to make a decision and to say, like, I'm getting there. And for a long time, I really struggled to get that concept. But at one point, I told myself I had been through so much. I now want, if I'm going to give up, it was, kind of the pain was for nothing, not for nothing. But I said to myself, I'm going to find a way. But I also accepted that it might take even longer, that I would be on the journey for 2 more years, 4 more years. But I told myself that I'm going to find a way to be a mother, maybe through adoption or foster care or something like that. So I told myself I'm going to somehow make it, but I also accepted that it's not now. And that's the difficult thing for me, because I'm an impatient person. And, we often tend to want it now, but that was a thing I already worked for years, and I didn't know the duration of the journey. So I think for me, it was accepting that I am now on this journey and I do not know when it ends, to accept that and to say, even if it might not work out, the journey was a gift. I was able to tell that, but I still had my goal and told myself, I have, I, I'm now 37, and I told myself I can go to up to 48, or, I I read about a woman who had her baby at 54. So I told myself I still have time and I will use it. But for now, I have to accept that it is what it is. And I didn't have my baby then. I was grateful for the journey, and that was a big game changer. But I have to say, being grateful is a big thing in these things. But I wasn't able to be grateful every day for everything. Some people they are, getting up and they're grateful for their coffee. And I appreciate my coffee, but what I want to say, it's a process. You don't have to be mad at yourself because you're not grateful enough, or it's a process. And one day, like you said, you're looking back and you're able to say, yeah, there was a reason I was going through this, and it brought me some benefits or something good into my life. Like, I met so many incredible women I would have never met, and that's a wonderful gift.
It is. Do you think that the practices that you learnt through this process and this ability to regulate your nervous system, have you found that they were helpful throughout your pregnancy and in these early postpartum weeks as well?
Yes, this was key, because switching on, I have to say, like with yoga, switching on the parasympathetic nervous system is key. I think somehow you need to be able to activate that, because otherwise for the body, it's really hard to fall pregnant. So you have to learn to be calm in the midst of the storm. And for me, the mindset work and the yoga and the meditations helped me to do that. I knew that before, I was into yoga, but you helped me to apply it to that journey and to see that it's enough if I do it for 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day, because it took some pressure out. We were building that house, we had our jobs. I wasn't able to do it every day for 45 minutes or an hour. So, but it gave me the permission to do at least something and to see that this is enough. And in the early pregnancy, I was kind of, for what we have been through, I was very calm, I think. Of course, I had my moments where I thought, oh, is it going to work out? But I knew I'm not in control, not 100%. I can do whatever it takes, and I'm taking good care of me and the baby, but I'm not 100% in control. So at that point, I had learned to let go and to surrender. And so, yes, this was really important to learn that, because otherwise you're just tense and you won't enjoy that first weeks. Or when do you say, it's safe? It's not the 12 weeks. You can lose your baby also with 13 or 14 weeks, unfortunately. So at one point you can let go the first 2 weeks, or at 16 weeks, but when is the time you say I'm fine? That's a feeling and an emotion you have to cultivate inside you. You won't ever have a guarantee. I think the most I had that feeling of insecurity before birth, because I thought, wow, we have come all that way, and the nagging feeling got up, maybe something is going wrong just right kind of before the end. It's not the end, it's the beginning of life. But I thought maybe, like our story, something is going to be incredibly crazy right before we meet our baby. And then I had I had that feeling, but I was able to control it. And I think, I loved, by the way, the prenatal yoga sessions with you, the on-demand ones. I wasn't able to participate in the live ones because of the different time zones we were in, but that's also great. I think, the program with you stays with me from the time we tried to conceive during pregnancy and now in the postpartum time. So that's also wonderful. It's just very holistic for the whole way. And I know when I started with you, I thought to myself, will I ever be able to take part in these prenatal classes? But I was, and it's worth to stick with it.
And you did, and you absolutely did. But oh gosh, I so relate to that feeling of being 39 weeks pregnant and thinking something's still going to go wrong. I mean, gosh, the trauma of this journey is not to be discounted in any way. Honestly, it is very impactful, and is.
I think it never leaves you. It never leaves you. Although I'm grateful for what I have been through, and I wouldn't change a thing, it never leaves you. It changes you forever, and some of the pain stays. But the other yoga teacher I work with since many years once told me there's beauty in the pain. And that was also a thing I never got, but now I get it. And it's like you say, it's not going to go away. And up until, week 39 or 40, or I think every parent can relate to that. But even when the baby's born, you think, is everything all right? And in a sense, this journey prepares you for motherhood.
Great.
Yeah. You have to be patient, and you have to surrender, and you have to have some trust in life. But it's not easy. I get it. And it was, when I heard these things in the beginning from others, I either thought, what are they talking about? Or I tried to make sense, for years. And just in the end, everything came together. And for everyone listening, I want to say, just keep going, and baby steps are enough. But pursue your dream, and just keep going and find your way. And every way is different. Every journey is different, but it's worth it.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Jen. I think that people are going to be so inspired by your story and just listening to everything you went through, and to be able to come out on the other side in such a graceful way is incredible. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being here and just taking this time to share with us everything you've been through. I so appreciate it. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Yes, thank you, Jen. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation and just listening to where Jennifer is now compared to when she started her journey with me. And oh my goodness, it just gives me so many goosebumps hearing these incredible stories, and just to witness what is possible, what you are capable of in these circumstances. It blows my mind every single day. So just a reminder, if you want to learn a little bit more about some of these practices that Jennifer and I spoke about on the podcast today, put your name down on the waitlist for my free fertility series, which is starting next week on the 28th of January. You'll find the link and a few more details in the show notes, so head over to that now. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me any stage. Now, on the next episode, we are talking about how thinking positively isn't the answer to helping you fall pregnant, and what you need to do instead. This is something that I get asked a lot, and it's really, really hard to get out of this idea that we've got to push away negative thoughts. We've always got to be thinking positively, but that is not exactly what we need to be doing. So I'm going to go through all of that in detail and more on the next episode. Can't wait to have you back for that. But until then, I'm sending you all my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace, to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in mind-body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.